Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Spook Central podcast, your place for all manner of ghoulish and horrific delights. I am your host, Addison Preston. I'm here with my co-host, Nicholas Rittenhouse, and today we're going to be talking about, reviewing, discussing A24's newest horror movie, X.
What a movie.
That's a good way to start it off. Okay, so for those who don't know, X is basically a genre movie about porn filmmakers going out to this farm in rural Texas. And then they end up getting murdered because the people who own the farm find out. But as we'll come to learn, there's a lot more going on in this movie than you might initially think. And aside from that, it's also like sort of homage to slasher movies in a way, but more so grindhouse movies from the late 70s.
I mean, granted, it is kind of like a 70s period piece.
Yeah, I would definitely say it counts as a period piece.
You know, the homage to sort of 70s slashers makes sense.
Yeah, at times it can feel a little Texas Chainsaw-y, especially with the Texas setting. Especially at the end with... Also, first off, spoilers.
Heavy spoiler warning.
Yeah, heavy spoiler warning. We are literally discussing the entirety of the movie right now. If you haven't seen the movie and you want to see it, go see it. I don't know why you would have clicked on a video titled this way. If you want to see it and you don't want spoilers, but spoiler warning, we're going to be spoiling literally the entire thing. It's been out for about a week now, actually exactly a week, I think.
Is it? I thought it was more.
It came out last Thursday.
Regardless.
So
it's...
Anyway, so it's been out for about a week now. I think it's actually doing pretty good at the box office. It's not filling up seats like anything like Spider-Man or the Batman, but you know, that's just the state of the world right now. I really enjoyed the movie. I'm going to say that right now. It's a weird movie. There's a lot of things you can go in depth on, hence notes. The Notebook and my frantic scribblings, trying to see in the dark. I couldn't. You didn't like the movie as much.
No, I wasn't the biggest fan. I had high hopes because A24 is a great studio. And
you haven't seen any other A24
Yes, I have.
What movies?
I've seen Hereditary.
When did you watch Hereditary?
Last night.
Oh.
Then
you didn't have high hopes when we saw it, though, because the first A24...
No, but I know it's a good studio.
Yeah, no, it's a really good studio. They have...
And I've seen bits and pieces of Midsommar.
Okay, yeah.
And I've watched the entirety of Hereditary.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much willing to watch any movie produced by A24 now. They can be kind of funny. Like, there's jokes that can be made about A24, like how they always make art house cinema, but it's still good. It's still damn good movie making. And they have very few movies that are, like, flops, and a lot of them were, like, very early on in their studio's career.
Yeah.
So they very much handpick things like that. So I kind of knew what to expect coming in. I knew it wasn't just going to be your stereotypical slasher. But I think a lot of people were fooled going to see this movie.
I mean, the trailers were sort of misleading in a way.
Yeah, I mean, like, it sets it up to what it is, but it doesn't it doesn't mention at all, like, the weirdness that it goes into.
No, because the trailer kind of paints it in a light where it's, my wife is unwell. She's crazy.
Yeah.
And she's going to come after
it's going to dive into that
teenagers.
old crazy grandma stereotype that we've seen with things like The Visit and stuff. Which The Visit's not a bad movie.
I mean, I don't know if you would count Pamela Voorhees' old crazy grandma, but close enough.
Yeah, but I think it kind of stems from the same type of thing where, like, it's like a female killer who's just
But a very
crazy.
common stereotype
so, like,
in early slashers.
There's been a lot of, like, movies, horror movies especially recently, that have been, like, kind of playing off the fear of old age, but not, like, the fear that comes with getting old, the fear of old people, which is a weird fear and one that I don't think we should necessarily be, like,
promoting,
putting out there and, like, talking, like, and, like, saying is a good thing and something that actually scares people.
Well, I think it's because it's easy to play on because the way a lot of people see elderly people is kind of unpredictable.
Yeah, true. I definitely, like, there's definitely fears there, and the way people react is definitely something that is easy to, like, prey on. But I just don't think it's, like, there's very few movies featuring, like, few horror movies featuring old people that don't paint them in, like, a more negative light.
Because it's easy.
Yeah.
If you paint them in a really positive light, then the only movies I see painting them in a really positive light are like, happy-go-lucky comedies and stuff.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Midsommar kind of treats old people with a weird respect in a way because, like, they have that, like, elder ritual where they reach a certain age and they just commit suicide.
But it's a weird.
But yeah, once again, Midsommar's a weird movie because it's A24 and that's the type of movies that they produce.
Weird, and I think that's the best way I would describe X. In my opinion,
so I saw this
weird.
movie twice. I saw it once with my one friend, and then I saw it with you. And both times when I left the theater, I was grinning ear to ear because I loved it, and I found so many things in that, and we'll get into that later. But you and the other person I saw it with were both just kind of like, the fuck did you bring me to? And I'm like, well, I mean, I told you it was going to be weird.
Putting it this way, the trailers were misleading, like I said earlier.
Yeah, because initially you didn't want to see it because you're like, it just looks like a basic slasher. And I'm like, no, I'm sure it won't be.
And it definitely wasn't just a basic slasher, but there are certain points where I felt uncomfortable past horror levels of uncomfort.
Which I can see, it certainly depends on how you choose to view movies.
To a point where it's, like, just general uncomfortable, where it's not something I want to watch. And I think that's where I struggled to see this movie in a positive light, is because it made me not scared, but it made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that was my issue, is I'm not enjoying myself, and I can't look at this as a movie because this scenario, not that it's a scenario, obviously, that's ever happened to me, and I really hope this scenario never happens to me.
Just don't work in a nursing home.
Yeah, but it's just like, that's creepy and weird, just not in the way that I want it to be.
Yeah, which weirdly you had the same, a similar reaction to The Thing when you watched it. Because The Thing is, once again, it's still my all-time favorite horror movie.
It's a good movie.
And I forced you to watch it, and when you watched it, you agreed that it was good, but because you were so, like, disturbed, not disturbed, but, like, creeped out by the special effects, you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Because you weren't able to enjoy it because you were just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's definitely not. X is not a movie for everyone, and I know a lot of people are going to hate it because it depends how you watch it. Like, if you're watching it for pleasure, and not that kind of... Actually, some people might be watching it for that kind of pleasure.
Which is not how you should be watching it.
Not how you should be watching it.
Which is another way the trailers were misleading.
Yeah, but... And so, like, you're not going to enjoy it if you're watching it to, like, have, like, a extremely good time and, like, go out with your friends and, like, laugh at seeing people get killed or stuff. Because it's a messed up movie, and it's an art house movie. Everything A24 makes is art house cinema, which makes me sound like a total douche, but it's true.
But, yeah.
And so, the only way you can really enjoy it is by going into it and analyzing it. At least I would say.
I will admit, there are certain things that I can 100% say were great about this movie. It had really good pacing, which I find is an issue in a lot of horror movies.
I found that one of the notes I wrote is that the pacing is not bad, but it's weird.
I enjoyed the pace of the movie. I thought the pacing was good until the very, very end.
Paced.
Well, it's only an hour 40.
Yeah, it's like an hour 46 or something like that. And so it's kind of feels like it's split into 2 acts.
Well, it is.
Like avoiding the 3-act narrative structure. And so, like, the first act is them, like, filming the movie and everything, and that's very quick paced. That's, like, scene, and, like, it's going through it, and also you're having a good time. And also it kind of feels like you're watching porn in a theater.
It's really weird because of the amount of casual nudity. That's something else. If you're planning on watching this movie,
Don't watch it with your family.
Yeah, there is a lot of just casual nudity in it.
Yeah, and because it's it's not straight up porn, obviously. No. But it's the line between what they're showing and what is porn is basically just the fact that no sexual acts were done on set kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's filmed in the style of it because that's what they're making. And so there's a certain point where it's so sexual that you're just kind of sitting there in the theater and you're just like, all right, I see the people around me and it feels like something that shouldn't be like happening, like you shouldn't be watching that with a bunch of people. But even still, the funny thing I find about it is that in the 70s, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but in the 70s and probably into the 80s and even in the 60s or whatnot, there was porn theaters. And they even bring it up in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There was porn theaters, like X-rated theaters, where you would go sit down with like a bunch of other creepy people, essentially all dudes in trench coats is what it was. All dudes in trench coats and fedoras tipped down. They're just. And so they had those, and like you would go and you would watch the X-rated movie, the adult films, and we've even seen that in a few horror movies and a few movies. It was in Taxi Driver. There was a scene in there just to show that Robert De Niro's character was something
else.
And then in an American Werewolf in London, I'm pretty sure. In American Werewolf in London, our main character goes in there for a bit, but it's not. I think it's just to find a place to talk to someone.
I'm not sure.
I can't quite remember. I haven't seen the movie in a while.
But that's just on the topic of casual nudity in the 70s. More so, the movie just shows it in a way that you're like you said, this is weird. There's people around me. It's odd to be watching it.
Well, yeah, it is weird to be watching it.
But I did enjoy certain parts of the movie. It's weird. It's weird transitioning from casual nudity to what I liked about the movie, but just kind of it's like circling back. I did think the pacing was pretty good.
Yeah, I just think it felt a little slow in the end and a little systematic because it was just kind of like one person goes out to like look, they get killed. Another person goes out because like, oh, where's this person, and then where's this person, and then where's this person. And I didn't really notice that till my second viewing. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, it works, and like logically, I feel like it makes sense. It can feel a little repetitive just seeing, okay, yeah, now that this person's going out, they're going to get killed, obviously.
I think more so it's predictable. And I find that's the case with a lot of horror movies, and why I like psych horror so much is it's not predictable. It's unpredictable.
Well, and yeah, psych horror definitely isn't predictable. But what I'm going to do right now is just get into my hypnotic. Well,
as you're making out your chicken scratch, I do admit I did enjoy the cinematography.
Oh, yeah, the cinematography
I think the characters, like all of the actors and actresses, put in a good performance.
Yeah, well we have Jenna Ortega, Kid Cudi, Mia Goth. I can only remember those three.
Honestly, I only remember Kid Cudi and Jenna Ortega, and probably one of the only reasons I actually conceded into actually like going to see the movie
was Jenna,
because I didn't want to see it. I did not want to see this movie at the start, but I watched Scream 2022 and I really enjoyed it. Like weirdly enough, for not seeing any of the other Scream movies,
yeah, because you still haven't seen any other Scream.
I really enjoyed the new Scream movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies I've seen in a long time, because I just think it was compelling and it was a good story.
Which it definitely was.
But I was like, okay, well, Jenna Ortega was good in Scream, and then I found her character was okay. It was good, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I think that's another problem that we see is the characters. They're not all balanced, and I think that's because there's so many cast members, and like they're also trying to tell the story of the old people as well. Because typically you don't tell the story of the villain that much in horror movies, especially horror movies this short. And so they're trying to get this storyline going so we can feel for the elderly people who I guess the farmers, for the farmer and his wife. But then they're also trying to get us to feel emotions and like set up the characters for everyone else. And so that leads to I think that's 8 people.
We can count it. The filmmaker.
There's the director. RJ, because there's RJ, Jenna Ortega's character, who are dating, and then there's Kid Cudi's character, and then
the lead female actress.
The lead female actress in the thing. And then there's the the producer guy.
His fiance.
And then his fiance. So there's 6 on the crew, and then there's the 2.
Yeah. Honestly,
and then there's also the cops, but the cops are kind of a throwaway.
I mean, yeah, and then you kind of have the convenience store girl.
Yeah, but that's like 2 seconds, and like the only thing she has to do is the guy says everyone likes sex, and then like he winks at her, and she's like,
I think there's only a total of like 12 characters that you see introduced.
Yeah, there's not too
in the movie because you have the cops that are stopped at the place with the person at the cow. You have the farmers.
Those are the same cops.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't fully sure.
Yeah.
But you have the farmer who's scraping the cow, or you have the
the
semi-driver.
trucker who hit a cow.
Yeah.
Who hit a cow.
So you have him scraping the cow off. You have the cops, which are the same two cops that you see at the place, at the house.
Yeah. So there's only like 11.
5 plus 6 is 11.
Yeah.
We only have 11 characters introduced.
Yeah, this is a very small movie in terms of like actors, which makes sense for the type of rural movie that they're.
Well, I guess like you said, Texas Chainsaw. Like in the original Texas Chainsaw, there's the Sawyer family,
which is 4 people.
Yeah, it's 4.
Yeah,
Grandpa,
like
Leatherface, mom, and brother, right?
Well, because there's Bubba.
Yeah, Bubba Sawyer.
And then there's
there's Granddad. Right? Is he in the original, or am I thinking wrong?
He's
the best at killing, yeah.
Yeah. We don't really need to go into this that much, but yeah, no, there's 4 members of the family because there's it's not Chop Top, it's
I don't even remember, and it's one of my favorite.
Because the other brother that's introduced in the second one is Chop Top.
I don't remember his name.
I can't remember his photo guy.
But it's similar amount of characters because there's 4 in the family and 5 friends. There's only 9 versus 12 plus
yeah.
Plus the guy
the
guy that picks him up at the end. That's 10 versus 11.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a very like when you think of I think that's another reason that's similar to Texas Chainsaw.
It has similar characters,
small cast in a rural neighborhood,
and
rural Texas. With. Some crazies who aren't supernatural or by any means.
True. All right, well, getting into this right off the bat, one of the things that I really love about this movie is how it plays with like aspect ratio and different camera angles and lenses used. And we see that right off at the start because the starting shot starts in, I think it's the barn, and it frames the house in sort of like a square picture with the barn sides like this, and then it slowly goes out to what the like normal aspect ratio is. So it sort of frames it in a smaller aspect ratio, which is what they were filming the porno in.
Yeah.
So it starts off with that smaller aspect ratio to get us used to the 2 different types of aspect ratios that we will be seeing in the movie. And I think that's a really great way of starting on because once again, it's framing the shot. But 2, it gets us used or at least people who aren't necessarily used to other aspect ratios, used to that aspect ratio right off the bat. And just kind of like, it's a little bit playful in that way.
I mean, it is an A24 film. You can expect really, really good cinematography.
Yeah, I think A24 films excel in camera work and cinematography. And story as well. Story is something.
I mean, yeah, but if you're talking about like a massive strength from A24 that's consistent through all their films, cinematography.
Well, yeah, because I will always go see a 24 pure A24
and 24
an A24 movie, purely just based off how it looks because they always look amazing, but they always.
I mean, I'm not too sure I want to see Men, but.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We saw the trailer for the new movie starring I think it's Jesse Buckley, who I really like. It's just called Men. And the thing is, the movie looks good. It's just I feel like the title.
Again,
makes
I'm not entranced by the trailer.
No,
and I wonder if that's just a thing with A24 films, where it's just the trailers are okay, but the movies are better than the trailers make them seem.
Yeah, I think A24.
Because I think they only ever do one trailer. They don't release multiple trailers. Or at least with X, they only had one trailer.
Yeah, maybe.
But like
I don't know.
Scream.
The thing is, I don't watch trailers obsessively anymore.
I do when they release multiple, but I think Scream had 3 different trailers.
Oh yeah, Scream had a crap ton of trailers,
which made it you really certain of what you were gonna see and what you wanted to do.
Yeah, well, because I think A24 is not worried about marketing as much because they know that the audience that they're really going for is gonna come, and then maybe some of the more general like populace will come, right? Like,
well, yeah, when I saw the trailer, I thought it was interesting purely because it's a 70s piece revolving around, these old people at a farm, which is a different killer than we see typically.
Yeah.
And the group of young people making a porno.
Yeah.
Which is different. So it caught my attention. Granted, I didn't want to see it, but it was definitely different, which is kind of a theme with all A24 movies, where they're different and they're all kind of uncomfortable. At least that follows the theme with Midsommar, Hereditary, and X. They're all kind of uncomfortable.
Oh, definitely. And even when you watch like things like The Witch and The Lighthouse, all of their horror movies are really uncomfortable. Like any horror movie.
Oh, I forgot I watched The Witch.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had too much free time when I was sick, so I watched.
Right.
So I watched them when I was sick.
And then it's funny juxtaposing that with A24. I guess this is also an episode about A24 now. But juxtaposing that with like some of A24's lighter films, such as like The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and even like I get Lady Bird or I don't think Little Women is A24.
I don't think so.
It's just popped into my head because it's Greta Gerwig who directed Lady Bird.
Yeah.
But like their lighter movies are really wholesome and like really feel good, and then you go and watch one of their horror movies and you're just like, you're just dead.
Like you said about this episode being A24, we've always expressed our
deep love
for A24. Like we've always been like, we like A24 movies, A24 films. Their film, their cinema, they're really really good. Scorsese. Yeah, but it's true. Like I don't. It's a film at that.
Yeah,
point.
No, and that's 100% true, right? Like, it's truly the only modern art house cinema that we're getting. And I'm very thankful for it because right now the film industry is going the way of blockbusters and like superhero movies and such. And I know people are going to hate on me because I know I sound like Scorsese and Ridley Scott and all that. But it's true. Like, we're missing out on a lot of original filmmaking and like these original ideas. Like something like A Ghost Story, if not for A24, probably wouldn't have been made because literally all they had was, I think it was like a 20-page outline or something. And they got like an hour and a half movie out of it. And it's just because the movie is mostly silent. And like it's largely unscripted because of that, because there's just not a lot of dialogue to play off there. But it's one of my favorite movies, and most of that has to do with how good David Lowery is as a director. But also it's so emotional. Yeah. Like with like the amount of stuff that they are able to do with that is just amazing. But I just know that, especially another thing is aspect ratios. Aspect ratios, if not for A24, I think would be standard. Yeah. You know, like A24 allows their directors to play with aspect ratios, and we see that in A Ghost Story X and The Lighthouse, where they decide to shrink the aspect ratio for certain things and to get more of a period piece feeling. Not in The Ghost Story, but in the other two. Yeah. And I'm just really thankful for that because aspect ratio is a part of the filmmaking process. That's something you need to think about. And when you play with the aspect ratio, it can change like emotions and such, right? Like it can make you feel claustrophobic, which is what Robert Eggers did with the Lighthouse.
Oh God, that is a creepy movie.
You haven't seen it though.
No, I've seen bits and pieces.
You've seen bits and pieces. Yeah. It's really creepy.
And even that part.
And the shrunk aspect ratio makes the movie feel more claustrophobic.
Yeah, as anyone who's watched our podcast knows, I'm big on psych horror. Because again, being unpredictable, to me, it's actually scary, and I'm an adrenaline.
And it makes you think about it later.
And I'm an adrenaline junkie, so for me, it's enjoyable to actually get scared. But I'm gonna circle back to what you said about the dialogue being really impactful in A Ghost Story because it's mostly silent. What dialogue there is being impactful, I didn't find that the dialogue was great in X aside from the conversations between the husband and wife.
Yeah, well, I think this movie isn't a dialogue movie. You know, the dialogue is just there so the characters are speaking. I think some of the jokes are funny. And I think the dialogue sets up who the characters are well. But this movie isn't about dialogue.
I mean, granted, what dialogue there is makes sense.
Yeah, like it makes sense. It makes total sense, and it doesn't sound off or especially weird. It's not impactful.
Well, when you're looking at
it doesn't have to be. You know?
Yeah, when you're looking at the characters and their characterization, what they're saying, like the one girl, where she keeps repeating, "I'm a fucking icon" or "I'm a fucking star."
Yeah, which that proves. Well, yeah, we start off right off the bat with her saying, "You're a fucking sex symbol."
Right, sex symbol.
And right into the mirror, staring right at herself.
That's the opening shot.
That tells us her goals.
Yeah.
That tells us like what she wants to be, and I think it really sets up her character well.
And then right after that, we have the producer, which I can't remember his name.
He comes in and then leaves, and then she says it to herself.
But we have the producer when he's speaking to her, and the way he give me some sugar. Yeah. Again, sets up his character so well.
Yeah, we know this guy's a sleazeball, right?
Yeah,
right
and then immediately with the blonde. Oh, again, I'm really bad with names.
It's hard because they didn't say their names that much. The only character whose name I remember
RJ
is RJ, and that's purely because we see it on the script.
Also because in that one scene where the producer's going, RJ, are you there? RJ, where are you, buddy? Right, RJ. So and I can't remember Kid Cudi's character's name, but they did say...
Well, it's because the whole time I'm just seeing Kid Cudi, so I'm just like, okay.
But it's like they constantly did say, or the producer at one point said, he's a professional, whatever his name is, or I've been noticing you taking long glances at whatever their name is.
Yeah.
But speaking on... Because the dialogue makes sense. It's good for the characters, but it's not top tier. It's okay.
Well, no, like I don't think it's not that it's bad dialogue. It's just that, like, it's not impactful. Like, you're not gonna go into this movie after hearing the dialogue and being like, wow, I have a completely new worldview. And it doesn't need to be that because it has so much else going on.
But, I mean, speaking of other things going on that were great in this movie, it had great characterization. I think that it had strong characters, especially for an hour 40, like 6 long horror movie. I think it had great characters because it made you like you understood the characters.
Yeah, you understood the characters
very well.
And I would say to a certain extent, you feel for the character struggles. And I'm gonna say that I felt for RJ the most, which is weird because I totally understand what they were trying to say with what Jenna Ortega's character was doing. I understand the ideas that were going on there, like, oh, it's just sex, you know.
Which is, again, an interesting point of view.
Yeah, it's an interesting
It's a very 70s point of view also.
It's a very 70s point of view where, like, free love and all that. But you feel for RJ in that one shower scene. Which
that is the deepest part of the movie.
I have 2 things to mention about that.
It's been on my mind this whole time talking about RJ and his descent, I guess.
But first off, with that shower scene, I love the top-down view. I think that's really nice. Why is there a window in the shower?
Well, there's...
No, that's not even like a question you need to answer. It's just there's a window in the shower.
I mean, yeah, it's weird, but I think that's
weird as
that's just a design of older homes.
I guess.
A lot of older homes have windows in their bathrooms, which just so happen maybe to be in the shower. Granted, it's a horrible decision. But he said it's a Civil War era house, so it's different ideas.
But I think, if you really want to dig into
he is in the grandpa.
It could be because I don't know. I'm not sure if they built the cabin for the movie.
For the movie?
For the movie.
I thought you were going to say if the elderly people built it. And I was
No,
they literally said they bought it during the Civil War.
But I'm not sure. I know for a fact they probably didn't build the house for the movie.
No way.
They probably didn't have enough money. But the cabin they might have built. And if they did build it, like if that was a set, then I'm almost wondering if Ty West specifically wanted a window in the shower so that we always sort of feel like we're being watched and like the characters are being watched because there's a window. And looking back, there might actually be a window in like almost every scene.
There's a lot of windows.
Because there's a lot of windows in the house looking back on it.
And even in there's a window in the barn. There's a window.
Yeah.
There's many, many windows in the cabin. There's a lot of windows in the house. There's that little window, I guess, that was created by Jenna Ortega's character breaking through the door. And it's constant. The windows are a big part of this movie.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense because it's sort of like voyeurism in a way. And like you sort of want to make it feel like you're being watched.
And that's kind of a big part of creating an adult film is the being watched part.
Yeah,
which I think they portray through the windows.
And I think that might be why there's
That's
so many
probably
windows.
the most like film nerdy thing I've ever said.
I know, but it's fun to think of films this way, and that's why I love film so much because it's art, and you can break art down and come up with your own ideas about it. And even if it wasn't necessarily true from the director's perspective, like if they didn't intend it, it can still be part of it. Like stuff can happen accidentally. Like, for example, like in Night of the Living Dead, George A. Romero shows a black man getting, like, slaughtered for no reason, basically. And when he wrote the script, he had no race in mind for the character. Like, he just wanted to write a tragic ending. But because of the political state of the world around that time, it sort of evolved to become this, like, political stance, even though it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And so, like, these kind of things can happen with movies, right?
But yeah. circling back to RJ's character,
yeah,
I think he had the best characterization out of anybody in the movie. I think he had the strongest character.
Yeah.
And I think he was the strongest written. Not saying that any of the characters were poorly written. I think they were all well written. But I think
even the convenience store clerk, right, with her little reaction to like saying everyone likes sex. Just what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
but I think RJ had the strongest character. Writing wise,
yeah, I think
because
definitely...
you see that he's passionate about what he's doing. He says, "I want to make a good movie." He's there not for the porn, but
there
for
because
the
he
movie.
Wants to make movies, and it's kind of funny. It's kind of in jokey, like about like, oh, he's a cinema student and he like wants to make it artsy and stuff. And
which
I think
is kind of hard in
I think Ty West definitely injected a little bit of like
himself.
Well, not even himself into it, but just like a little bit of like meta
film student
culture, like a little
culture,
meta film student type of vibes into him there. And so I definitely think that he's one of the best characters, and I also feel for him because he was really, and I think that also speaks to the actor's performance because he was really heartbroken after Jenna Ortega filmed her sex scene, which we don't see any of.
Yeah, which is, again, interesting because there's so much casual nudity up to that point.
Like all the other actors are willing to do it, but I think
Jenna Ortega's also young. She's like 19.
Jenna Ortega's 19.
And I don't know if
she was a Disney star.
Yeah,
which, let's not say
that
she
was
can't.
Also so weird to see her in that movie because I grew up on Disney Channel, and I
don't remember seeing Jenna Ortega on the Disney Channel though.
I think she was in, Stuck in the Middle, and I watched that show. So I saw her when I was younger, and then I saw her in Scream a couple months ago, and now I'm seeing her in X, and I'm like...
Scream was my first introduction to her. Like
I had seen her before, and that's why I was like, oh, like Scream, Jenna, that's weird.
Yeah. So, first off, I did talk a little bit about how this is like a Grindhouse movie.
Yeah.
And I think it really does a good job at mimicking the style of a Grindhouse movie, and somewhat the structure as well. But it isn't a bad movie, which is the good thing. Okay, well, it's debatable, but it's not a bad movie.
I mean, talking about it now, I realize that it has a lot of strengths. But again, it's uncomfortable in the way that I don't want it to be. I'm okay being uncomfortable because there's gore, or being uncomfortable because there's, someone's fighting for their life, or uncomfortable because of the visuals that I'm seeing. But I don't want to be uncomfortable because of sexual advances from an elderly woman on someone that is 100% not okay with it.
But so jumping back to the Grindhouse stuff though, so Grindhouse movies were a type of film in the 70s that were made cheaply. The budgets weren't that good, the scripts weren't that good, and generally they were just made to be shown at drive-ins and get people excited about like kills and like sexual content and stuff. And
it's fan service.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
It's just gore and sex.
Yeah, it's just it's just what the people want to see. That's what Grindhouse movies were. But they've gone on to influence a lot of stuff, like they influenced slashers in a way and a bunch of other stuff. And so Tarantino loved Grindhouse movies, and so he and Robert Rodriguez made a Grindhouse double feature in 2007.
You can tell in Tarantino's work that he liked Grindhouse movies.
Yeah, from all the blood and gore.
Especially in Last Night in Soho. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's every Tarantino movie.
I know, but especially Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's just because that's the only one you've seen.
I've seen multiple. I've also seen Pulp Fiction.
All right. But no, and so they made... so Tarantino made Death Proof and Robert Rodriguez made Planet Terror. And speaking directly on Death Proof, it is a very true-to-form Grindhouse movie, and it's a shitty movie. I'm going to say that right now. It is Tarantino's only bad movie, like truly bad movie. But he did it on purpose, so you can't fault him for making a bad movie because he wanted to make a bad movie, and that's just the kind of guy Tarantino was.
He's still that kind of guy.
Well, yeah, like he's willing to make bad movies for the sake of it, and so he made a bad movie on purpose and stayed very true to form with Grindhouse, and I think that's great. But what Ty West does here with X is he pays homage to Grindhouse movies and takes the form of them and changes it into something that's actually meaningful and gives value in certain ways, and is a little bit weird in other ways, right? And so I think I really enjoyed that part of it.
I don't know. There's a lot to love about this movie, and there's a lot to hate about the movie, too. Yeah. And I think if you tend to focus on the positives afterwards, it's easy to say, I would see it again. During when you're watching it again, I might, maybe. During when you're watching it, it's hard to focus on the positives if you become as uncomfortable as a lot of people, I'm sure, who were watching it did.
Yeah, true. So one thing I really want to touch on here is, I think the major theme of this film is sort of like profane stuff, which is like the porn and everything, versus God, or like good versus evil type of thing. And so in this case, like the profane would be like the kids, and also it's like a generational gap type of thing. So like, it's also like sort of like sex versus abstinence in a way.
It's very well. There's the underlying theme with the show that's being played throughout, not throughout the entire film, obviously, but in the opening shot, not the opening, but in the beginning of the movie, if I can speak properly, where you have the person on the TV, like the pastor.
Right. Oh yeah, the pastor. We need to talk about the pastor.
And then that's in direct, like it's juxtaposed directly with, you see that, and then we're filming a porno, like that's that.
Yeah.
And
so
didn't he
it's like
say that one of the girls was his daughter?
Yes. So
I forget which one was.
I guess the main character final girl of the movie. I'm a fucking sex symbol girl. Yeah, her. She is the daughter. It's revealed at the very end that she's the daughter of the pastor, which is why we sort of kept seeing him. But he and the elderly people represent like the good morals of like the 50s and stuff, and like the outlook on the world that, sex should just be something between man and wife type of thing, versus the outlook of like the 60s and 70s and like a younger generation where like, it's like you can have fun with it, like nudist culture and everything. And so that goes on throughout it. But then it also plays in with the elderly people where they're also getting to the age where they can't do it even if they want to, or at least the old man can't because of his heart and such.
But he has a really...
The old lady, yeah.
No, his death I'm not the biggest fan of.
I think it's funny.
That's the biggest issue, is it's funny.
It's funny.
Because...
once again, it makes sense. It just feels anticlimactic.
I know, because after that's the best way to describe it, is anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Because after...
he just sort of has a heart attack.
After Jenna Ortega gets blown not to pieces, but gets filled with lead from the shotgun.
Yeah.
He's dragging her in, her blood,
and
body spurts up blood, and he goes, and dies. And it's like...
because he gets scared. And because... So, I don't know if you guys know this, but the old man and the old lady, they have a sex scene.
Yeah, again, uncomfortable.
Which I will agree, that is the only point in which I was uncomfortable. But I will say they didn't show it as outright sexually as like the other.
But like during that scene in the theater, I literally turned to you and held up my hand and went, "What is this?
And
like,
said,
what are we watching?"
But also, that scene also doubles as I guess, pastor's daughter's escape.
I mean, yeah, it's a convenient
she's under
escape.
the bed, which
I'm kind of confused as to why she didn't grab the shotgun. Because it was against the nightstand. That's what I was thinking the entire time.
I would be thinking straight if I'm trying to escape from under a bed where two people are having sex. Just two people in general.
That's the entire thing I was thinking during the time. Grab the shotgun, shoot them, run. Grab it. And she didn't grab it, and I was like, why? Why didn't you grab the gun?
There'd be no plot.
I know, but it's so, like, I hate when characters just make dumb decisions that are, like, outrightly stupid. She might not have. It was dark. She might not have seen where you put it down.
Yeah.
But when she was crawling out, feet first also, like, what the heck? Why feet first? She didn't grab the gun. She could have grabbed the gun and ended the movie right there. Obviously, that wouldn't have been a good ending.
Yeah.
Because I think the movie does have a good ending, but, like...
Yeah, so I want to talk about the practical effects, though.
Okay.
I know that you think I'm a practical effects elitist.
It's because you are.
I'm not. I just think CGI has its place and practical effects have its place. And this movie, I don't think it uses any CGI. I think it is purely practical, and I'm sorry, but it's beautiful.
It looks good. I don't have a problem.
Good.
I wish we actually saw... Jax, that's his name. Jackson, I think, is Kid Cudi's character.
Oh, is it? Yeah, okay, yeah, I think
I
so.
think it's Jax. I wish we saw him after he got shot.
Yeah. Well,
because that would have been
Jenna
cool.
Ortega.
I know, but it would have been cool to see because he literally had his gun to his chest. That would have been a cool effect to see if you wanted gore because it's not going to deter anybody. Granted, what just happened, and then I know I don't know. You know how I feel about things that I think are way too extra.
Yeah.
I think the alligator was a little meh. Wasn't not the greatest ending for her.
Oh yeah, I think the alligator death definitely. I think it was very extra.
I understand.
But I like this. I don't like. So there's the one other alligator scene in the movie.
I didn't understand it.
That one, the first one was there to set up the second one. And And they kind of use. So there's this rule in comedy. It's like I think it's like the rule of 3 or something. Where it's like basically you bring up something 3 times, and then on the third time, like it's more of a joke.
I think that's the thing. I was watching a Hitchcock documentary. I know.
What one?
I don't know. I was just watching. It was basically like a homemade documentary about Hitchcock on YouTube that I was watching after I saw the movie, where it's like But I think that's something that he mentions.
Yeah. So basically, the setup is, so they have the first scene where the pastor's daughter is swimming in this lake, and there's an alligator. Which once again, the alligator is a practical effect.
But that alligator looked great.
I know.
It looked really good.
I could still tell that it wasn't a real alligator, obviously.
The tail was the giveaway for me.
And in that scene there, it's actually my favorite shot of the movie because it's a very wide-angled shot from above.
It's beautiful.
And it's purely it is literally all water except for a small part of the dock, the pastor's daughter, and then the alligator swimming. And I love the shot, one, because it feels so barren, and also because it uses a wide-angle lens and we get so much detail.
It's a beautiful shot. I think that's my favorite shot of the movie.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite shot, and I love that part of the scene because, holy crap, it made me tense up both times.
I was like, no way they kill her now.
Well, I knew they weren't going to kill her, but it was so good at, conveying distance, because you can really feel from that angle, just how far she is from the dock and how close the alligator's getting, and it feels right on the toes.
Because it is.
Because you can see the speed of the alligator compared to the speed of her, right?
Well, and obviously she wasn't swimming for her life. She didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, she didn't even know. She never knew.
It's one of those things where it's turn around, look behind you.
But I feel like that's a scene that we've seen a lot of that type of thing in things like Crawl, even with Jaws, with sharks and everything.
I never watched Crawl.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I think it was the trailers looked okay, but then that was COVID time. It came out during COVID time.
No, I think that was Crawl 2.
I think it was Crawl 1.
There's 2 Crawls. I think the first one
regardless.
was 2015. Anyway, but with that type of scene where you're being chased by this water monster, they're always very close up and personal and with all these things, and it doesn't really allow you to feel the true fear of just open water and not being able to escape, which this does.
Which is funny, because I have thalassophobia. So thalassophobia. It's the fear of large open bodies of water. Oh. So that scene made me really tense up because it's a large open body of water, which not large but big enough.
Yeah, big enough.
Where there's a gator.
Which speaking of big enough, Kid Cudi's dick in this movie.
Yeah.
It's more than big enough.
There was definitely that one scene was
fucking hilarious.
That was something else. I was really not I was looking at the screen obviously, and I was like, did he put pants? No.
And then it just shows a silhouette and she's like, oh no, he didn't. He's like, oh, let me put my pants on.
I'm like,
I just like how he also answered the door without pants.
I was like,
I don't care.
I was like, huh? I know he's proud of his body, but come on, man. But yeah, that scene was really...
We also have a scene where he plays guitar, which I feel like it's just in his contract that he has to do something musical in every movie he's in.
Yeah, but it was an enjoyable scene.
Yeah, no, it was an enjoyable scene, and I liked
it. Also led to RJ's descent, which makes...
Right. And I liked, during that scene with the guitars, I liked how the frame was switching. Because it was split screen and it was showing the old lady and then it was showing them and then it was showing 2 shots of them, and there's a lot of really clever editing in this movie, and even some of the scenes they overlap. Did you notice that where when it's switching from one scene to another, it stays on one scene, then it switches back, and then it does that repeatedly. Yeah. And I feel like that was to convey a sort of film feel to it.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like splicing it together and like how you would cut film together.
Which
obviously that's not how you cut film together, but it gives you that kind of feel.
It was interesting. This movie's definitely strong point is characterization and cinematography.
And editing.
Yeah.
I think the editing is
obviously
great.
It's A24. I don't feel like we need to point that out.
I want to see this movie get nominated for an editing Oscar, but the Oscars are bullshit, and it's probably not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It might.
I don't think it will win even if it gets a nomination.
The thing is, editing is a hard thing to judge, and usually you only notice it when it's bad editing. So the fact that I noticed the good editing, I think it should win.
Well, convey that to the Oscars.
Yeah, I'll go.
Write them a strongly worded email.
Strongly worded letter.
Strongly worded letter in paper.
And another thing is, Ty West uses a few different lenses. Obviously, he uses like a standard lens. And then for a few ones, he uses wide-angled lenses. Like in that shot we were talking about, he used a wide-angled lens. And he uses it to convey distance. There's also another shot of the field between the cabin and the house, where he sort of needs to convey the distance in between there, even though it's not that far of a distance, but it really
seems
feels like a
lot,
distance
yeah.
with a wide-angled lens. And then he uses a fisheye lens, or like a wide-angled fisheye lens, or something like that. I couldn't find an actual answer to exactly what lens it was, but I think it's something like that in the car when it's viewed from the front. So we see basically the two characters at the side that are sitting in the front, and then everyone else in the back, and like kind of like bows out like that. And I really like seeing that. That was a shot in the trailer, actually.
The trailer painted this movie differently, as I said, but it was.
Yeah.
I think the movie. Okay, I think the movie has its strong points. I didn't enjoy it, but I think it's a good movie.
I'm finally glad you admit that, because after you saw it, you were like, "No, it's not a good movie," and then you just left it.
I was like, it was okay.
Yeah.
But
with that, we need to wrap up here. There's so much in this movie to break down, and even in many other movies, there's a lot to break down. And I would definitely love to do this again with other movies. I didn't even use my
second episode on this is easy. We can.
I don't think we will do it. I think we need to move on. But yeah, like it's go watch the movie if you enjoy A24 movies, or you enjoy dissecting films, or you enjoy old people having sex.
If you enjoy any of the actors,
yeah,
or anything, it's got a strong point. It's a pretty good movie.
The best way to describe this movie is art house meets grindhouse, or horrors and horror.
Yeah, yeah,
horrors and horrors.
Yeah.
But with that, that's all the time we have for today. I have been Addison Prest. I don't think Nick has anything else to say on this.
No, again, I didn't like the movie that much when I first saw it. Thinking about it now, it's a pretty damn good movie. Go give it a watch if you're not super sensitive to, gore,
sexual
sex,
content stuff.
Yeah.
It's once again, you need to check yourself before you watch this movie. I would maybe make sure you're in a good mental spot.
And you're probably gonna have to check yourself after you watch it too. But again, good movie.
Have to check into
that's all we've got for today.
Yeah, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time on the spooky side.